It's such a bizarre story. It's like I don't even believe it happened. Just when I think about it, I think that can't possibly have ever happened. This isn't just some musician. This is Elvis Costello. He has made the soundtrack of years of my life. You know, it's Elvis.
This is a letter of thanks, as I'm so bored here and I can't say where. So I'm writing to people that I may never meet, and I was thinking of something you said.
How can you not love this? Look at this guy. Look at him. Our pets are so much more important to us than even we realize. And they smell bad, so I can help them with that. I think dogs who smell better get more affection. This is the best job in the world, for me. It's definitely not for everyone. But for me, this is great. It beats the military. By the time I came of age to make decisions like whether or not to enlist, it seemed like a useful alternative to the lifestyle I had been living. Things weren't looking real promising for me. I really wanted to go to school. I was broke. I was sort of living here and there. I had no sense of purpose, no sense of direction, no sense of anything worth mentioning. So it seemed like a great idea. And I did it. I did it on a whim. And I just kept going with it until I was gone.
I'm a female soldier. My name is Constance. I enlisted in the military, needing funds for college. I'm 23 years old, and if I do get home alive, I imagine I may think again.
I first got into Elvis when MTV started coming out. And I don't remember what year it was, 80-something. And Peace, Love, and Understanding was one of the videos. And I thought, what is this guy's deal? He was just so strange and good and refreshing. And after that, it was true love. The energy, the lyrics, the music, the band, I just couldn't get enough.
And that may have been the thing then that made Elvis so special, because, you know, I mean, he was just one album after another.
Oh, it was
and there was
the things you can count on.
Right.
A new Elvis record.
It was our stability and our consistency.
It really was.
And there was always a song on the new album that expressed exactly the insanity of what we were going through at the time.
I walked into the military in March, and by the end of December of that year, the talk of going to the Middle East was in the air. A lot of people in the unit were strongly opposed to the rationale behind the war, nor were we ever really informed of it. It wasn't explained to us politically. So we were left to our own news sources to devise whatever explanations we could and try and rationalize it. And I guess we all just did the best we could with what we had.
As I report to you, air attacks are underway against military targets in Iraq. Halfway around the world, we are engaged in a great struggle in the skies and on the seas and sands. We know why we're there. We Americans. We have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Well, music matters everywhere, but especially in the Gulf. You can't go to war without one. You gotta have a Walkman. And you pack every piece of music that you think is important enough that will fit. And a lot of it, not all of it, but a good amount of it was all cassettes of Elvis. I just listened and listened and listened so many times over and over. It was a good escape. It helped you forget where you were and what was going on, just even for a little bit. It was a time machine. It transported you to better places and better times.
I'm sleeping with my eyes open for fear of attack. Your words are comfort, they're the best things that I have. Apart from family pictures and of course my gas mask, I don't know why I am writing to you.
I remember her telling me that, I think it was in a letter, telling me that she wrote to Elvis. There was, a night she had to stay up late, and, she had written to me, she had written to, whoever else she could think of, and I guess found his address and wrote to him. She said she wrote him a thank you note. She thanked him for his music.
It's just very, very perchance. I was in AIT in Fort Bliss, Texas, and somebody walked up to me with a book, and it was called Anybody Who Is Anybody, Address. And I grabbed the book, and I said, give me a pen. And of course, Elvis's address was in there. I wrote it down real fast, and I stuck it in my bag. And it was that same bag that I had wound up bringing to the Middle East with me. And one day I was looking for something, probably a lighter or something, and I pulled out the address, and there it was, and I was surprised. Oh, God, I have Elvis's address. I'm going to write Elvis a letter. Anyway, we're going to die. So what? So I did.
I received this letter, which is quoted fairly faithfully in the story, from a soldier who was in the Gulf, a female soldier. And it was a very poignant letter, given that it was written about 4 days before the war broke out, and it was full of fear and doubt about being there.
A lot of soldiers were, they were freaked out. Wouldn't you be freaked out? We're talking about a bunch of young kids. I know, okay. I'm sorry. Can I lift you? Can I lift you? Please? Gentle. 1, 2. Good boy.
The immediate reaction, I must admit, in myself, was kind of serves you right. What are you doing in the army, particularly this kind of war?
When you're younger, you tend to, most younger kids that I know tend to live with a sense of urgency, and they live very much in the present moment without giving a whole lot of thought to the consequences of their decisions. The last thing we'd expected was to go off to war.
Essentially, we grew up in 15 years of peace, and it seemed like we were so far ahead of, we'd never have to solve our problems like that again.
As I was beginning to gather information from a lot of different people, I was hearing conflicting stories. We're doing it for the power, the oil, the money. That's your real obvious answer. I know there were plans to go to Baghdad back then. We didn't do it. I guess George H. Bush knew better than his son, for which I'm grateful. However, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we did what we did. I guess sometimes I'm angry and sometimes I'm just sad. I guess mostly all the time I'm just a little scared for all of us. And I don't mean just Americans, I mean globally. Because we're heading we're heading in a very ugly direction. And I don't understand why more people aren't shouting about it.
The album came out when you were back and you were in Louisiana and just had a little time left in the Army. So I got the album when it came out and was listening to it and suddenly stumbled across the letter. And I knew you had written to him. He says, "I'm a female soldier, my name is Constance." And I heard it, and it was this like wave of, like I was having a hot flash or something, and my stomach was rolling over. And so I looked at it and I read it, and it was, verbatim, obviously, it was your letter. And I got so excited, I threw up.
I knew it was serious when she'd mentioned that she threw up, because whenever she gets really excited, or something's really, really about to happen, she throws up.
Had to lie to the Red Cross and tell them there was a family emergency and that she needed to call home immediately.
I was covered in mud, I was exhausted, and I'd gotten back to the barracks, and I saw a note on my barracks door to call home immediately. I thought, damn it, who died? This was my immediate reaction. Can you tell I grew up in New York? Who died? So I call. She said, no, you have to listen to me. You wrote Elvis a letter from the war, and he got it, and now it's on a record. And I said, get out of here.
No, you said, are you shitting me?
So 2 days later, she FedExed me a cassette, and it was fast-forwarded right to the point at the beginning of the song, and it said explicitly, do not rewind, do not fast-forward, just hit play. So I did, and I freaked out. It was as though I came up out of my chair. There was no gravity, and I played it again and again and again and again and again, and I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't even leave the barracks. I was late. I was late for formation. I was neglecting everything, and I just kept playing that and playing that.
He announced the show at Town Hall, and I had the ad cut out of the paper, and like tickets went on sale the next day or something. Whenever the show was, you were getting out like a couple of days before that.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
From the minute I signed out of being a soldier and into civilianhood, I partied like an animal, like an animal who just got out of a cage, and I did not sleep.
And then, the rest of it was just this like insane fun blur.
Well, I got out of the plane with my bags, and suddenly I feel this hand grabbing me and pulling me, going, come on, we're gonna be late for the show. And I said, hi. And she was like, ugh, you stink, let's go, come on. And she drove like a maniac into Manhattan. And I was just looking around in shock, Everything was just so weird. The lights in Manhattan and being in a civilian vehicle. I still had a march in my step.
It wasn't like a regular Elvis concert where you could be all pumped up. It was Town Hall and a string quartet.
In the next letter, a cynical writer, not anything at all like me, receives a sad and pathetic note which causes him to think again. Tell me how I can advise someone that I don't even know to welcome death, for I received a letter that is worth reporting.
As we were sitting in our seats waiting for the show to come up, and she was talking to some guys, and I don't even know what they were talking about. But apparently one of them, or both of them, were musicians who had these backstage passes.
So I told them the story. Oh, this is Connie and the letter and everything.
I don't know their names, I don't remember what they look like. But they gave me these backstage passes.
So after the show, we went to go backstage, and the guard said, nobody's allowed backstage, but if you have passes, you're invited to the party.
It was a very elegant setup. I mean, it was like waitresses in cocktail dresses with plates of chocolate-covered strawberries, and men in tuxedos, and people in evening gowns, and I was in my army jacket and a pair of blue jeans, and a baseball cap, and I smelled bad. I knew I didn't belong there, but I didn't care. My friend disappeared. I don't know where she went or what she was doing. And she came back and she reached, and again, she grabbed my coat. She's been doing that for years. She grabs my coat and goes, "Come on." And I thought, man, we're getting kicked out already? And she drags me over to this group of people. And in the center of this group of people is Elvis. And I stop and I think, oh no, we can't do this now. They're going to throw us out for sure. And Joan reaches across this little table through the people and leans over and grabs Elvis's elbow mid-sentence. And she says, "Excuse me, Elvis." And she's a little rude that way. And you can tell he was a little annoyed because he paused and he looked over the rim of his glasses and said, like only Elvis can say, is, "Yes, hello."
Then I said to him, "This is Constance," and he was saying, "Are you joking?" And I said, "No, from the sad and pathetic, the sad and pathetic letter."
And he looked at her and he said, "Is this a gag?" And he looked at me and then he looked at her and he looked at me and he said, "You're joking." And I went, no, I'm not. I did. I wrote you that letter. And he said, "I can't believe it's you." And I went, "I can't believe it's you." It was like the whole world just disappeared from around him and stopped turning and time stood still. And he said, "So what did you think of the song?" I said, "Are you kidding? It's the most beautiful song I ever heard." You know, not because I helped you write it or anything. I remember him asking me how I was doing, and I can tell that he really meant it. That's one of the top 50 greatest seconds of my life. It's probably in the top 10, to be honest with you.
I think the whole thing for me was this, wanting this all to mean something, you know. She had to go through the Operation Desert Shield and Storm and, you know, back to Louisiana and back home to get there, you know. So you couldn't do all of that traveling and not at least let them know that, you know, you heard it, you love the song.
It's a really beautiful song. Even still to this day, when I hear the song, and I hear that air raid siren, I get the hair on my arms and on the back of my neck. I find them standing up because I'll never forget that sound. It's something I had grown very accustomed to over there. And I hope I never hear again.
How y'all doing? I'm having fun now.
I think I was always a stray pet. So I fit in with these guys. It's comforting. Life is fun. Life is great. It really is. It's particularly on the personal level. On the global level, I'm upset and I'm ashamed. But on a personal level, isn't everything just a contradiction anyway? Humans are a sweet, beautiful, stupid, and contentious species. And I'm not saying that we're not lovable, sweet creatures, because we are. But I prefer to work with the dogs.